I did send out the agenda. Hopefully everybody got a chance to see that. It was sent out through GIM Connect. I sent it out this morning, but it's pretty similar to everything that we've covered in the past. So, so first, just an overall update. This is coming from the important floor in the director's office. Hold on one second, please. Sorry, that was my chief of staff, so I kind of had to take that one. So, all right. So so overall update, the status of articles. So we seem to be doing fairly well right now with getting some, which always seems to happen after the annual meeting. A lot of times people have put in some work, they have done some things, and they're looking to turn it into some type of written scholarship. And so that has been helpful to get some numbers up. And so like I have enough articles right now into some of the October issue. So I have enough for September and looking into October, and we still have a few more that are out there. But it's always a good thing because, like, as an example, it would have been nice to know some of this uh, ahead of time because, like, as an example, the Education Committee wanted to write up their updates in medical education. Well, the problem is now it's not going to be published until probably September or so. I didn't want to really get into October, but it's like, you know, that's well after the annual meeting. So just if there's somebody you know that has something from the annual meeting, and let's just say it's like an update or something that becomes time sensitive, y'all know on here, a lot of our submitters though sometimes don't pay attention to the fact that we have a 6-week lead time, and then even with that, they're not guaranteed to be in the next issue. There may be other times that, you know, go well beyond that we need to deal with. So, so overall, we're doing fairly well. So that's a good thing. The next thing, and one of the things, I'll mention it here, but it'll come up a little bit later with the August annual meeting issue. One of the things we did put, now I'm trying to remember if I put it in, I think I put it in that, the republishing of the editorial that Tiffany had done a few years ago about how to cite your articles that are published in the forum. We did that in that issue because that issue usually gets read a little bit more. But if you have worked with someone or know someone that has published and they're trying to figure out how to put it on their CV, Tiffany and them did a pretty good job. I think Shanu's the only associate editor still left from that article that tells people how they can cite it. So we were using that as a way also to encourage people to submit to the forum. So so that's in there as well, and that usually provides a little bit of an uptick. So next item on the agenda, and by all means, please interrupt. Y'all know, hopefully from prior meetings, raise your hand. You can just even interrupt if you have a question or a comment at any point in time. So K-Town must have just finished his cereal that he didn't offer to us, although he publicized it for those who were not on the call when he
I should not have said anything.
So, but is anybody working on anything right now that I just need to be aware of that they have either in progress or soliciting, especially if it's time sensitive? Okay, not a problem. Please do, if you're in any interest groups or any other committees or commission, be on the lookout for things. As an example, I always look through the SGIM communications, and I don't know if you saw the thing that came out yesterday from the health policy group that shared the information that they had. And I reached out to Tracy Henry and said, hey, you know, this would have been a really good article pretty concise and everything, well written. That could have been an article. Hey, Lubna, how are you? Hey, Shubha. That could have been used for a forum article. Y'all interested in writing something like this up? It turns out it was a little bit time sensitive, which I kind of thought was the case. But she's going to probably take that and use it as a skeleton, maybe for something after the time sensitive component, after any votes and stuff like that are on that. But just using that as an example, if there's something that you see that you think would be a good article, I would want to hear about, then reach out to that person and ask them if they're interested in submitting it to the forum. Sorry. And so that is something that is a good way to see that. So that's just one example. That was like a really good article. Taylor, can you post that in the link, a link to it or something in the chat, just so that if anybody is also looking at this later in the minutes, that they could see that that email? Is that possible?
Yeah, I
Taylor?
just sent it. I just sent it to Tracy so she could get in.
Oh, okay. Wait, sent what to Tracy?
She was asking for the Zoom link. Is that
Oh,
what
okay.
you're
No,
talking
I'm
about?
not talking about, can you put the link to that email or post that email from yesterday, the health policy one that went out to all members
Oh, sorry. I was sending her that, and that's what I was
Yeah, okay.
focusing on. Yeah, I can do that.
Just it's an example of how, as you're seeing things and thinking of things that, especially if it's an area of interest, Tracy likes, health policy, advocacy, et cetera. And that was all, I knew that, so that's why I reached out to her. But, those are just examples of just always being on the lookout for things like that. So, Luke, I think we were started when you joined, but I think I was asking, maybe I'll just wait till Tracy joins. Hey, Tracy, welcome. I was just telling them about how you and I was having our discussion earlier today and encouraging them that if there was any similar type of things that they were working on or knew that was coming out, to look at that as an example of how we could have maybe turned that into a win-win for, health policy plus whoever wrote it up, in addition to maybe making it a good forum article. So we're going to post that in the chats. We are recording this for the first time and going to share it for those who could not make the meeting as well. So Taylor posted that link in the chat. So, and let's see, we had, I think, 2 or 3 people. Hey, welcome, Shanu. Anybody working on anything I need to know about or be aware about, especially if it's a time-sensitive article coming forward?
I had you reached out to me several months ago or writing
Uh-huh.
briefly about my experience as a fellow, but then I know now that the deadline is August 15th. Uh, so I'm wondering, can I let you know by tomorrow if that's worth submitting, like my experience as a fellow, because the RWJ fellowship actually, the deadline to apply is November. It might be November 1st or 15th, something like that. So if folks are interested in applying, this might be a good time to
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I say the 15th, I actually have a couple days after that. If it's coming from an AE, you basically know what we're looking for, and usually those articles are written at a much higher level, and there's like much less that has to go into those. But the 15th is more for a general article because I have a very tight turnaround, and it also depends upon the responsiveness of the person. If they submit something to me and then they don't check their email for 3 or 4 days, and then all of a sudden it puts me up against Frank, and I don't like fighting with Frank. So yeah, if you can just let me know, and even if you just say, hey, I'm going to look at this or whatever, just like you just did, I can be kind of on the lookout for it. But it also means that I have to look at the other articles because I have a full October issue for the most part anyway right now. But that's not a problem. We do have the ability to move things around, and so that's good. I'll take any articles. It's just a matter of, because some of them are time sensitive and some of them are not. So
Okay. And even not October, it could be November after the deadline,
no,
but
it's good.
it could be
That
cool
sounds
if it
like
was before.
it kind of sounds like it's a time sensitive thing. So that's important. Some of the other ones are more a little bit evergreen in nature and they're not time sensitive. So I'd rather get the one that's going to be most helpful with a deadline in there. So
Okay. All
hey,
right.
Shanu, welcome. All right.
Michael, can I tell you about one that you may be
Yes, ma'am.
expecting? I don't know if
Uh-huh.
it's already been submitted to you, but 2 of my colleagues are writing up a case as a clinical reasoning exercise, which was an unusual
Okay.
presentation of amyloid. So I'm working with them to edit it a little bit, but hopefully should be coming to you sometime soon. Not time sensitive. It's an interesting
Okay.
case, but that's one to expect.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be on the lookout for it, so. All right. And we haven't had a case for a while. I do know that Jen Mishner was talking about doing one from a virtual standpoint because she's doing some virtual medicine for the VA. And so that'll be an interesting case to try to write up. Like, how do you do, we all face the virtual and have written up a case report or whatever, probably regarding a patient we've seen or helped a trainee do it, et cetera. She's going to try to write one up from a virtual standpoint. So I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out because I've not seen one of those presented before. So. We have the August annual meeting issue feedback on the agenda. So that was our biggest issue to date because now that we have the new forum style, we're not restricted to only 16 pages. So we kind of took advantage of that in that we were able to publish 25 pages and 8 pages were all pictures. There were color pictures. And so I think that added a lot more, vibrancy to the issue and stuff like that. So was just curious to know what some of y'all's thoughts were. Were there too many pictures? Did it seem about right? Did the mix of pictures seem good? The articles were about the same as what we normally publish. We basically just added about 8 pages of pictures. So I'm not sure there could be too many comments about the articles, but would welcome any feedback because Taylor's going to write this down, and when we have the new editor that comes on for next year's meeting, they'll have the ability to do a longer issue like this for the annual meeting. But we know that most people like looking at things and pictures and seeing themselves or seeing their friends or reliving some of those memories. So I didn't know what people's thoughts were. Are you gonna be shy? I know y'all not shy people. All right. Well, I guess silence is golden then. I guess we'll take it for that. So Taylor, great job. We don't have to do anything different then for next year. All right. The September issue, that is actually complete. That is with Frank. I'm trying to make sure, yeah, that one's done. So we're already on to the October issue now. And as mentioned, I do have some that probably can even trickle over into the November issue. So just want people to be aware of that, if you're working with somebody, but even more importantly, it's that time sensitive component because, as we get into the next topic, which is going to be the theme issue, as we roll into things for the new post-January issues, we always have some things in there that are related to the annual meeting and stuff like that. And that's kind of a lesson that I learned from this, and I'll pass on to the next editor in chief, which is, after the first of the year, we start getting into annual meeting items that have to be included. And those are kind of, I will say mandatory, but we want to make sure as an organization that we're including those as it's almost like free advertisement for the annual meeting, which is, a big source of income for SGIM to do the things that we want to do and promote that. So usually there's a presidential article, the meeting chair article. Usually there is at least 1 or 2 other articles by annual meeting program staff, program committee members, highlighting things that they do. So as we move into the theme issue, I've kept pushing off the theme issues a little bit because when we have the theme issue, it basically is enough articles to fill usually 1 or most of the time 2 issues. Well, that means that if I'm a regular author and not submitting a theme issue, then I'm pushing things out even further for when my article can get published. And I've been trying to avoid doing that too much just because of the fact that I don't want to delay an author submitting their article to see it delayed too much in terms of getting it published. But that being said, from an editor standpoint, and having talked with Joe before and Tiffany, the theme issues are good because they offer an opportunity for groups within SGIM to submit, but it also, as an editor, is because you get a bunch of articles that you can publish at a later date. So if you have problems soliciting articles, identifying articles, reaching out to groups, committees, commissions, et cetera, getting articles, this is a good way to get a large chunk of them at one time. So if any of y'all are thinking about being editor-in-chief in come at next year's annual meeting and want to take over, that's the benefit of it. It does give you a large number of articles. The kind of one downside, like I said, is it does push things out. So I have kind of been holding off on that. In the past, they would often do 2 theme issues a year to get a lot of articles. We've been fortunate that we've got good AEs, fortunate that I've been able to solicit a bunch of them, et cetera. So I think we've been pretty good there. But the lesson learned is probably should make sure that any theme issues hit before the annual meeting stuff starts in January, February. So we may run into that problem a little bit, but we'll cross that bridge and get it. Now, the other part so just education for y'all as associate editors, when you do offer a theme issue, then people want to come back and get another theme issue because they like it. So MedEd, I think it recently just published that JGIM did a special edition, or sometimes get them all confused because they all run together in the month. I think they just published one for MedEd, or they're getting ready to publish a special JGIM issue. Geriatrics has already said, well, we did one before, we want to do another one. And it's like, well, y'all are at the bottom of the list right now. Sorry. Because it's a nice chance for people to promote their areas of interest, their niches and stuff like that. So it does serve a purpose and stuff like that. And we just, as a editorial team, just have to figure out how we're going to best utilize that. So, with Taylor and myself and Francine we talked with a little bit with Carlos about it. And so picked out the next theme issue. We weren't even going to send it out for a vote because we're trying to avoid too many topics and everything. But this is also going to tie into not this coming meeting, but it's going to lead into the following year's meeting that's going to be chaired by, or not chaired, Mark Schwartz will be president. And the next theme issue is going to be what SGIM means to me. So similar to the lessons learned, it's going to open it up to everybody. It's not just people who have a geriatrics interest if you do a geriatric theme, or a med ed if it's, that's the theme, et cetera. As an example, I work at the VA. I had wanted to do a VA theme issue. With the current political climate, that was not going to be a reality. So I put that off. Maybe somewhere down the line, the next editor-in-chief may want to do something like that. So we picked kind of a nice neutral topic, but something that most people would like. But also this is going to tie into some things that I'm on the 50th anniversary annual meeting planning committee, I think is the title of it. And so there's going to be, collections of stories, both from new members, established members, some history things, et cetera. And so this is going to kind of set the stage for some of that as they start soliciting that in the future. Because once we hit the annual meeting, then it's going to be like leading up to the or advertising for the following year's 50th anniversary meeting. So that's going to be the theme issue. It's kind of strategically chosen for that. We will get it in before the annual meeting. I do know that. So, nobody has to commit to anything today, but you can message me and Taylor or both or one or the other. If you have any interest, once again, we're going to try to set it up so that people can get things on their CV, but also in case it's something that they want to apply for the next editor-in-chief, for one person to be the leader of it as the special guest editor, and then two theme issue editors. Once again, you will not have to do any of it by yourself. I will still be there. I'll be the main person interacting with Frank, just so you don't have to learn all of that. But, it is one of those things that for the theme issue editors, I think Shanu was one of the ones last time. Well, I know she was, as well as Lubna. They got to see some things that, as a regular associate editor, you probably don't get to see. So it was just some of those discussions with Frank back and forth. So if anybody wants to serve in any one of those 3 roles, please let us know. And like I said, we will go from there. So yes, Yusuf, 50th anniversary is in 2027. So not this year's or this upcoming meeting, which would be 2026, but it would be the 2027 one. So I think, Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, is on the West Coast. Is it?
I believe it's Seattle.
Seattle, that's right. I knew it was West Coast. I was trying to think, and I was thinking Vancouver, but I knew it wasn't. But yes, it is Seattle. This upcoming year is in Washington, D.C. The following year it is in Seattle. So that's where the 50th anniversary will be. So, and then finally, as related to the theme issue, is the timeline for the articles will be set soon. Part of that is trying to set it where we have the specifics, the date. I would like to get the special guest editor in chief and theme issue editors identified in order to do that. So that's kind of why I kind of held off on that. But I can quickly generate the timeline based upon past theme issues that we've done. Taylor and I have both of that already available, and we can quickly work with whoever or do it ourselves if necessary. And if no one wants to do it, then that's totally fine. We'll just continue to do it as we have done it. Just this is a chance for someone to get a little bit more of a different experience, but also something that they can put on their CV as something like, yeah, I was the guest editor or the editor in chief for the theme issue, whatever. I mean, I did it for the transition of care way back when I was an associate editor. And I think it helped me with some of my the things that I did in my career at that time. So let me stop there. Any questions about the theme issue?
I think it may be helpful to share that timeline so folks can sort of look at that and see how it gels with their own personal commitments and schedules. Because remember, when I was doing it, one of the things that I almost did not volunteer because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do stuff because of my clinical responsibilities. But one of the things that really helped was, with Shanu and Alfred both being there, it was nice to be able to sort of defer the heavy lifting to one or the other of us during the times when the other person was clinically sort of busier and could not respond to a lot of these things. So I think it is a fun experience, and I think just take a look. Having a timeline available to review, I think everybody gets a different comfort level looking at, okay, this is when this starts, this is when this starts, this is how, and that I always find it very helpful before I commit to anything, if I can have some sense of when my heavy lifting is needed and what am I doing clinically in that time period versus the other stuff. So that may be helpful to share on our via email.
Okay, yeah, I can send that up. I was looking at it from a point of view of letting the group decide, because we're not committed to saying it has to. I moved the actually deadline from December, January to January, February, but even then, if it was February, March, that's not a problem either. Like I said, I do want to get it done before we hit the annual meeting so that the new editor in chief doesn't have to deal with the theme issue, but also would come in and have the ability to have some articles in hand that they could publish throughout the year. Because when you first start, it is a little bit, like drinking from a fire hose. It's just a matter of, it's not hard, it's just a lot. And so having articles in hand that were already done is something that is kind of like my gift to whoever comes afterward. So I guess I was viewing it as let them set the timeline, but maybe what we could do is kind of find some common ground and say, hey, here was the timeline from the last one, but the editor in chief and the theme issue editors would have some flexibility in adjusting it. Maybe we can do that. So, other questions? Did you have any thoughts on this? I know you and Lubna were the ones that were the theme issue editors last time. I don't know if you have any contributions you want to throw out there for everybody to consider.
Yeah, I think there were three of us. There was Alfred, myself, and Lubna. And I think, speaking to what Lubna said earlier, it was really helpful to have the three of us because our clinical responsibilities differed. And so, if one person was unable to handle something, we would let everybody else know so that we could kind of plan around that. And I think in our instance, we ended up taking up about 3 issues. There was enough content for about 3 issues. So some of the work was just, first, it was very rewarding to see all of these people engage. I think it's a really special thing to do a theme issue. And then be able to read all their stories was really rewarding. But I think some of it was like really deciding which one goes where. I think we spent some time doing that. I don't know that I was ready for that when we first signed up, that there'd be some work, thinking about how we prioritize which goes where. The editing piece, I think I was expecting, but yeah, either way, I think it was a fun thing to do.
Throw out there, I'm getting ready to publish, I don't think it was in August, it's probably coming out in the September one, an article that was submitted to y'all that's just now being finalized. That's how far out sometimes some of these authors take when they don't get into the theme issue. It was about which degree is right for me, about a young trainee who felt kind of pressured to do an MBA and did it, but now is offering her thoughts on when you should do it, if you should do it, how you should do it, etc. And I still actually have one that the author kind of responded, then has fallen off the radar. So I'm not sure if they will ever get it in, but it's one of those things that I just keep reaching out to them periodically saying, hey, I know you get busy and stuff. If you're interested, just let me know. So so they're still coming in, Shanu, just so you know. So. All right, so yeah, if anybody's interested, please let me know and can give guidance. We can even talk about it. Some of y'all I may have talked to for different reasons. I do drive home every night. It's about a 45-minute drive for me, sometimes 55 minutes. So, you know, we can go in depth and talk more. If people have specific questions, if they want to know something before they commit to it, et cetera, we can always, you know, go through that and talk about that. So next is I'll work on getting a timeline out, at least a generic timeline, and say from whenever the you know, the issue is going to be published, and just kind of backdate it a little bit and say, you know, here's, you know, here's publication date, you know, publication date minus 1 month is when roughly this would be done. Publication minus 6 weeks is when this would be done, et cetera. Just so people can kind of get a sense of what the work is in relation to whenever it's decided, and then let the 3 individuals, if there's 3, decide on exactly when they want to do it. So. All right, next is the editor succession planning. Taylor has a timeline and call for submission. I'll let her talk about that in just a second on where she stands with that. But one of the things we want to point out to people is a couple things. So there is a stipend that comes with being editor-in-chief, and I work with counsel to get that increase for the next editor. Unfortunately, I do not get to see the benefits of that, but whoever does get it in the future will be getting a slight increase over what I have previously received to date and prior editors. So that's coming. But we also want to highlight for people that if you feel like you want to do the editor-in-chief, but feel like it's a little bit overwhelming, you know, in the call that Taylor's going to talk about, there is the opportunity to be a co-editor in chief and share that responsibility with someone else. So as y'all were just talking about clinical duties sometimes kind of getting in the way. For me, as an example, working at the VA, I don't have a chance at any time during the day to work on this. I don't get any, you know, administrative, educational time or whatever, like I might have if I was still working at the academic affiliate. And then with the position I'm in as a leader at the VA, I don't have that time. So most of my time doing this is on nights or weekends. But as an example of something like that with your situation, or maybe you have young children, et cetera, and you're interested, but you kind of can't do it, there is the opportunity to do it like JGM does, where they have 3 editors in chief and they all rotate for a year and stuff like that. And so Taylor and I have even talked about if there were co-editors, would there be restrictions on how it would be set up and everything? And I do think SGIM they kind of have the final say in terms of the selection, I think, in terms of like, okay, how would it be broken up? Is it every other month? Is it where people would be responsible for it? Do you do it in blocks of, say, you know, 2 months or 3 months, and then the next editor-in-chief rolls over? The key is really the communication between the 2 people. So would recommend that if there is going to be that consideration of a co-application or an application for co-editors-in-chief, that there's some discussion with those people in the front end, and maybe even a discussion with myself or Taylor, just so that people can understand, you know, like how they might break it up and stuff like that. So let me stop there and let Taylor talk about it, because I know she's drafted some documents. I don't know if she's at the point of ready to share them yet, if they've been approved, or if she wants to talk about them a little bit more in terms of general stuff.
Yes, the RFP announcement was in the August issue e-blast. So that has already gone out. It's available on the website. We have it as an announcement, and I did see a few people have already gone in and viewed the application. No one has submitted yet, but it is open initially right now through October 31st. And in the RFP, we do have a section in which we ask if you are submitting as a team to explain what that looks like. So just like how you envision it. Everything's lined out in the RFP, like everything we're looking for, along with the CV. And I would say that if you have any interest at all, that doing the theme issue, being like the guest editor for our upcoming theme issue, would be like a great opportunity to really see what the editor-in-chief role entails. And also, as Mike said too, if you have any questions or interested at all, please feel free to reach out to either of us. I would love that if we had a plethora of applications to choose from by the end of October. So even if it's not you who are interested, if you know anyone within like your personal network that you think would be a good fit for this role, please feel free to share the RFP and the links as widely as possible. I think that's it.
Yeah, I
for
think-
me.
Yeah, so I mean, it's up, it's running, and people can apply. The big thing I think where as an associate editor, you have, you know, distinct advantage over people who have not, because you know what we do, you know the intricacies of, you know, of doing this. But a big portion too of also of this is just working with members to get submissions in. You know, like I would at the annual meeting, if you saw something interesting as a poster or a workshop or whatever, is encouraging those people to submit. I would often give them my business card and say, hey, reach out to me or whatever. We've had several people that have published in that fashion, or like the email that we put in the chat box, you know, and talk with Tracy about it. It's kind of like one of those things I've done, like Lean Six Sigma training for, you know, waste in the healthcare system. And I always say that, you know, once you do that type of training, they always say, once you do it, you see waste everywhere. And in a similar fashion, once you get into the editor mindset, you start seeing and saying, oh, that would be interesting to SGIM members. Maybe it's not even interesting to you, but you kind of have all of y'all have been in the organization for a while. You have a sense of what SGIM members want and would read and stuff like that. So it's one of those things that you will have a distinct advantage over anybody who hasn't done it within SGIM as a forum editor. I mean, as a forum associate editor. So. Okay, well, we can always work towards that. And like I said, if any of y'all have any particular questions, you know, off the record that you kind of want to just ask, you know, Taylor's available, I'm available. Tiffany has said she's available, you know, if you kind of want to stay a degree of separation out, maybe you work closely with her, you know, as a theme issue editor under her leadership, and you want to ask her more about it. Because once again, when you come in as editor in chief, you have the opportunity to change some things around. Does not have to continue exactly the same way. You might want more theme issues. You might want to move meetings to different times, et cetera. You know, those are all things that fall under your purview to be able to make some changes. So there is opportunities. So. All right. Next is feedbacks and concerns, which kind of also ties into comments and feedback. I didn't realize I had both of those in there in the agenda. Was just first, let me see if Taylor has anything. Taylor, did you want to anything you need to discuss or bring up?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, thoughts, concerns, issues they want to raise?
Just to clarify the proposed rule, if I do find a co-author or reach out to CRD, if you may use that summary and then build a case off of it, are you okay if we were able to get it done by August 15th, then you would consider that for the October issue?
Yeah, I'm willing to consider anything if it's time sensitive.
If it's time
That's
sensitive.
not a, yeah, that's not a problem. I just need to know like ASAP that, hey, yeah, we're gonna work on it. And like I said, we can go a couple days past the 15th. I mean, I guess the good thing is that is something that's already written, and looking at it, it's probably been proofed a couple times. It's pretty tight. I don't know that there would be that much that would be needed. And then there's even the talk about the handouts and the advocacy tools at the end, you know, so like I said, in my email to you, I think you would just have to do an introduction and a little bit
then
more
a conclusion.
conclusion. And I think that you got the whole middle part of your article. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, if I know it's coming, then I can kind of look at things and see and rearrange things, because time sensitive things are always going to rise to the top. And there's optimal ways things come to me, and there's other ways that things come to me that, you know, at the last minute, hey, y'all didn't think about it, but it's important, so we might as well put it out there. And if we can get it done in the time frame, then yeah, we can do it. So
Okay. Let me reach out to CRD, make sure they're okay with us using it. And then my last thing is, who else saw it besides us? Was it just the health policy people and not the rest of SGIM?
ooh, I don't know. Taylor, do you know?
Previews actually do those e-blasts, and it goes out to the entire membership, and it's on the website. And so if you are logged in, you can view it as well.
Oh,
But once again, you know, not everybody pays attention to email. Sometimes those emails get lost, you know,
Yes.
so you know, I don't have a problem publishing it as an article when it's already been e-blasted out. We
Okay.
e-blast, you know, summaries of other things. I do know that there's an article that Eric's going to be working on that is probably going to be published in the October issue. Although right now, Taylor, I don't know how much that article is going to be in pre-published state, but I mean, they want to get something out and get it something that Eric is working on with Carlos. And they want to get it in a later, well, the earliest it would be the October issue, but because it's kind of time sensitive, they want to get it up on the web, or the SGIM site, the forum site on the web, sooner. And, you know, I told them, yeah, we could do that. We wouldn't do that with any other article but this is coming from the CEO and the president. Yeah, they kind of get a little special preference. But, yeah, even though it's been sent out to everybody, that's really not a problem in my
Okay,
mind.
I'll let you know by tomorrow. I'll just reach out to the folks who wrote that article just to make sure they're
Uh-huh.
cool with it, make them an author, obviously, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then I'll make sure they're okay with it, and then I'll let you know by tomorrow.
But I guess maybe I should, since we're saying all of this, Taylor, you don't see any concerns with that? 'Cause I just kind of decided that, but
I don't think so. It's not something that I know that we've like done before. And I know that like I could talk to Francine. I know because it's the e-blast and stuff on the website is members only, but if we're doing this as a forum article, which is also like member facing, I don't see any issue with it.
okay, well, you can maybe reach out to Francine later today and then email me and Tracy so that we know, because yeah, we don't want her moving forward with it if Francine kind of poo-poos it and says, hey, yeah, no, we don't do that. I think that it would just be beneficial because it does reach different audiences. I know people that don't read emails. I know people that don't read the forum. So, you know, at least in this way, maybe we reach a broader audience. So
Makes sense. All right, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
all right, well, I don't see anybody else raising hand, putting things in the chat, so maybe that's the end of the meeting for today. So thank y'all very much. If any of y'all are interested, once again, in the theme issue, please reach out. If any of y'all are interested in the big job down the line, please reach out, or go and look for those RFPs.